is Art, and in this video I will be showing you how to use the patient monitoring software, and this is my second video, and it is. Now I'll be showcasing the vital signs simulator software for you all, and remember to like and share and subscribe my channel. Then you should click on the bell icon with your mouse clicking. Then you will be able to watch the video. Now I will remind you to subscribe and like and share. Also share the video even with your medical students or whatever which is in your college which you study your students medical. Okay, just like, subscribe and share and click on the bell icon that your medical students can watch my videos like this one, which is the video that I'm pressing now, like I'm making now. Further then, started. Now, when you download the Vital Signs simulator software, then you will be able to install it. Now, first you will get a zip file stored in a download folder, which is the normal process of downloading files. Then you drag it to your desktop, then extract it. Or you can leave it into the download folder and you can extract it from there. When you're done, you open up the folder which is on my desktop. Then I will be showing you what is inside this file. Inside this file you'll find the applications, which is for you to install. Then you'll find the setup.exe file. When you click on that, I'll show you why my computer is not working. Then this window will come up. Now, and this already installed the software. This I'm going to click on OK. Then I'll close this. There you go. Now, when you download the software, when you run it, then what happens? Then you will be having this file normally stored in desktop by the default. Okay, it's not in download folder, not in your pictures and music folder, whatever it is. It's only stored on your desktop. When you click on this file on your desktop, then it will bring up the big operator window as well as the training window. Then when will the operator window, the training window come up? Then you will activate all of the parameters and all of the value checks which are important for displaying a patient monitor. Now this window will come up. Then you will be able to activate all of the vital signs. Now you will checkmark ECG available. You checkmark that, then this waveform will appear. This is very important. Now the heart rate stands for heart rate, HR. Then you will checkmark this HR available heart rate, and the rate of the heart rate in the beats per minute format is 80. Then you can adjust this to whatever rhythm you like, or whatever rate you like. There's entirely up to you. And you will apply any rhythm you want. For example, like to have ventricular tachycardia. Selected. Click on apply. Then it will display the following waveform. Then this is the following waveform which you will see on the most patient monitors displaying this critical life-threatening rhythm, which is a form of cardiac arrest. Now cardiac arrest is a severe type of heart disease which can cause immediate death. Now, cardiac arrest should be treated as fast as critical as possible, and it should not be treated incorrectly because it will cause severe life-threatening issues to the patient then it will cause immediate death to the patient's heart. Then the heart will go to asystole, which is the final part and even the form of sustained or even normal cardiac arrest. This is extremely important to remember when you are working as a paramedic. Then, this is the most life-threatening rhythm to ever be treating this rhythm with a patient which has this rhythm. The doctor will set the defibrillator to 360 joules. If the defibrillation is still not successful, 360 joules, or even if lower was the paramount, 200 joules will be necessary, or even 150 joules. Okay? Now, when they charge the rhythm, but before that, they need to analyze the rhythm. Then, they will charge the rhythm once they analyze it. Then, they will press the big red shock button located onto the defibrillator's main front. Then, then it charges the rhythm. Then what happens? Then it will charge the EKG or even the ECG, but I prefer to call it EKG because that's my word, to normal sinus rhythm. Then it will bring the patient back to the normal EKG rhythm. Then it will deliver the EKG rhythm back to its normal state before the cardiac arrest occurred, which is normal sinus rhythm, or either it was just sinus rhythm before that happened. Next, we're moving on to the SpO2 level. Now it is 98%. Then below 98%, it's when the SpO2 number level is below 90, or even 92, 93, 94, or even 95, then it is considered low SpO2. But 95 is okay, but 94 or below that number is low SpO2, and number 80 SpO2, and number 70, and most critically 60% or 40% is extremely critical for the patient's oxygen. Now the patient is not receiving enough oxygen, then the SpO2 will result in 70% of the how oxygen was composed. The SpO2 can also, most critical to remember, is the SpO2 waveform. That's extremely critical to remember. Now the SpO2 waveform is moving fast. If the patient is breathing fast, it is moving up, appearing fast, and that can also appear if the heart rate is faster as well. Even if the breathing and the heart rate both are combined fast, then the SpO2 is faster as well. If the breathing wants to do that, the EtCO2 should be applied on the patient's nose, or if an oxygen mask, it should be on the mouth, or either on the nose. That's called a nasal cannula. I heard that when I started seeing medical information. Then the respiration rate. The respiration rate BPM is 12. Then the respiration BPM matches how the patient's EKG is measured. Now the patient's EKG, if it's slow, then the respiration rate BPM is going to be showing quite normal, like this number, but the waveform will start to appear like this. Narrow, not narrow, I think that is wide. It is going to be appearing very wide. Look at my cursor, my mouse. It's going to be appearing like this. Like this. then that means, look, my mouse is turning backward. Like this one. That means that the heart rate is bradycardia, then the respiration rate should be bradycardia as well, including the waveform. And this number will be presented as normal, by the way, but the waveform will be changed, only the waveform will change to the wide bradycardia waveform level. Like this, look at my mouse. Then that means that if the patient is, if most critical to remember about respiration, if the patient cannot breathe or have shortness of breath, then the respiration will appear like this. Look at my mouse. This is my mouse, how it follows the waveform. This will appear like this. If the patient is experiencing irregular breathing patterns or shortness of breath, which is most critical. If the patient is experiencing normal respiration rate, then the rate will be like this, the normal rate. Look at the mouse. The rate is slower, look, and the waveform is normal, like a sinus rhythm. It is like this. That's most important to remember, and the NIBP is 120 by 80, and this is normal, by the way. An IBP which is too slow, I mean that is too low or high, then that means that the patient is in critical condition. If the patient was in fever, or yes, if the patient was in fever and the patient's forehead was in a deep frostbite, for example, if the month was in December 2009 and the patient was experiencing, remember this is an example, and this is an example event of when will the patient will be in a critical condition. Please remember, this is an example date, okay? Remember that. On December 2009, the winter slow slide reached and the patient was in fever with a deep frostbite and not a deep frostbite, in a cold and not properly heated area, and the patient was experiencing more frequent fever and frequent coughs, and his or her BP will appear higher. For example, that is going to be 140 by 65, and that is example BPM. If the diastolic was appearing 98, then the waveform will appear like monotony flat. Instead of this, if the waveform wants to be appearing like this, high now, instead of the monotony flat, then it should be about 140 or even 141 by 65. It should be 141 or 140 by 65. If that appears, then the waveform will be like this, up and down, zigzag, instead of the monotony flat, low. Then it will be most important. The doctors will check the NIBP when the patient will be going to the hospital in this fictional scenario. It will check the NIBP, and like I said now, the BP will be like 140, 141 by 65. That means that the systolic is 141 or 140, depending on which level, and the diastolic will be 65. And also the sounds are available for you to simulate, but keep in mind that these do not scare anyone if they heard these sounds. Only these sounds are just for representation about how critical patient can be and how we can save the patient's life. These sounds are built for that purpose. Okay? That's very important to remember. Extremely important to remember. If the patient is vomiting, for example the mannequin, but also keep in mind please, that the mannequin is not vomiting. It is only mannequin's simulation. Please remember that. Groan, vomit, these are all simulators, functions, and these are only represented for how do they represent a patient's critical condition. An alarm, this is an alarm. This can also be available. Then it can also be used. This is an alarm. This can reflect how a number blinks or how an alarm starts. If the rhythm is low, then the alarm will be kind of low priority or even medium priority. If the heart rate was a bit fast, it will be still medium priority. If the heart rate was going trending to the fast rhythm, then it will be transitioning. It will make its last medium priority sounds, the last bit, and the first and the second bit of the higher priority alarms, the most critical. The medium and the low are mid and low critical. The low priority alarms is but also remember, if the rhythm goes low, the alarm also even goes high priority. That means that is most critical for the patient to be saved, and the life must be saved for the patient. Very low or very high heart rates are the most critical form of how a life-threatening heart rhythm is. Okay, that is very important to remember. Then we'll move on to the next bit. Then it will be about using the software. Now, this is the data, the documentation about a patient's EKG or offering like that, or even the SpO2, ETCO2, respiration rate, and IBP, and rhythm, and event as well. These are extremely important for daily treatments and the daily patient visitors. Now, if the paramedics or even the doctors or the nurses go to the patient's treatment room, even the emergency room, they should quickly document everything else which is extremely critical for the patient's health. It will display the time, the heart rate, SpO2, ETCO2, respiration rate, and IBP, rhythm, and also the event. For example, that on December 2009, the time was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and the heart rate was 130 beats per minute, and the SpO2 was 95, EGCO2 was 38, respiration rate was 08 beats per minute, and the NIBP was 115 by 55, and the rhythm was I'll check. The heart rate was about 40 beats per minute, and the rhythm was sinus bradycardia, and the event was that a patient was experiencing fever with low rhythms, and the patient was experiencing shortness of breath. And the ETCO2 was ETCO2 was, and the ETCO2's respiration rate was 9 respiration rates per minute beating. That means that the patient was experiencing shortness of breath, and that needs to be cured and cared quickly. Then, when you start to remember these important things which are discussed to you right now, and even during the video, you will be memorized about how a critical patient needs. If you're a paramedic, and if you are a doctor or nurse, or whatever you're working as, like but I'll just say that you are just a doctor or nurse or paramedic, then you will be able to understand all of these critical and extremely important things that are said to you right now and during the video. Then we'll continue on with the video. Now, if I want to enable EKG, I'll check mark that, and I'll enable HR, SpO2, ETCO2, respiration rate, and IBP. The MHD means millimeters. I don't know what this means. I only know what does the respiration rate and the BPM means. I've just searched this out on Google, I think. Then we'll read on. Then we'll continue on. On the bottom of the software is the CPR start button, apply button, and the sounds and all of the buttons, and the drop down box for any medications. When you click on the custom 1, custom 2, then you will bring up these customs. If on a medication or on an IV/IO access, then it will bring up these ones on the drop down. The EKG rhythm. This is sinus rhythm, atrial fibrillation, atrial flutter, asystole, ventricular bradycardia, that's a new rhythm, ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation, and to sort the pointers. And that's the French word for twisting the points. And the required MA is 80, ATMA, which means the word MA means for milliamps. And the next rhythm is going to be sinus rhythm. An IBP systolic is 120 and diastolic is 80. Then we'll continue on with the video. We're done with talking, then we'll continue on with the video. But I cannot stop asking the critical things because they're extremely important for this video. And we'll read on. Then I change the EKG rhythm to supraventricular tachycardia. Look, there's no P waves is the segment there's only T waves. That is supraventricular tachycardia. The heart rate is 200, respiratory is 98, ECG is 40, respiration rate is 12, and the NIBP is 120 by 80. Then when you charge up the rhythm, then you will be prompted to shock the rhythm immediately, and it will bring back the rhythm, which is ventricular tachycardia, which is going to be, in this case, to normal sinus rhythm. We'll change rhythm to that. Now I'll show you this step, which we're talking about right now. And this is it of closely simulated by open it. Now this is ventricular tachycardia. Then you charge the rhythm. Then you press the red shock button after you hear the defibrillator charging. And it delivered to your 100 joules. That is the big red orange text which is appear this. Then you will start to activate CPR. Then the waveform will appear like this in a wavy pattern. Now this is how you push the patient's chest out of force or less likely. If you want to perform CPR, you have to press a bit more or even more harder, and the BPM for most medical regulations, which is the American Heart Association and the British Red Cross, according to these websites, the minimum CPR BPM must be minimum of 100 or even 120 BPM. And if it's not 120 or 100, it will violate the laws. That's why you should keep in mind this and continue on CPR with the BPM of 120 or 110 or even 100, as these are important for safer CPR performance or even CPR performers. Then you will start to select the EKG rhythm to charge the defibrillator and send back to the normal EKG rhythm, which we're going to be here. Then you click on the Analyze button. Then if you don't stop the CPR, it will detect that the motion is now detected. Then if you want to analyze the EKG rhythm, it must be in ventricular tachycardia or even ventricular fibrillation, whatever you choose between these two rhythms. It should appear in a life-threatening rhythm, back into ventricular fibrillation or even ventricular tachycardia after stopping the motion. If the analyze feature want to work, then it should do that. Now then you will press the Analyze button. Then it will continue. Then it will continue CPR. Then what we need to do is to change the rhythm back to the wavy pattern CPR. Then again push harder on the patient's chest. But remember, this is a simulator, that's why you do not need to have a mannequin for this. Then you will see this wavy pattern, and it's giving you maximum about 121 or either 110 seconds. Then you can see it's counting to 50 seconds. Then it will continue to count down until it reaches to 0. Now this message and the remaining seconds and the wavy pattern is extremely critical and important to save a patient's life after the patient was in ventricular fibrillation or ventricular tachycardia, or even most critically to start the pointers. Then it will ask you to analyze the EKG, but you need to disable CPR for this. Now, you will, if you're working as a paramedic, then the team sitting, if doing CPR on the floor, will, in front of you, will ask you to move your hands away from the patient's chest, then press the analyze button on the defibrillator in front of you. When you press the analyze button, you will stand, you both the team and you will stand, then you will press the analyze button. Then when that process begins, then the analyze button will text will appear. Then again the defibrillator tune like the going from low to a high pitched defibrillator charging module will appear again. Then you'll again have to shock the rhythm to bring back the patient's chest to a normal rhythm. And now press the analyze button. Then it will be asking you to continue CPR. Now we need to enable CPR for this. This is especially common in most defibrillators because they ask that the shock is not advised yet unless the rhythm was more extreme and VF state and the defibrillator was capable of charging and the shock was advised. Unless this happened, it will ask you to continue CPR again unless that critical scenario happened. Then it will appear in this wavy pattern. Then it will be asking you to it's still not advised to shock. Then you should continue CPR. Then the patient's EKG will be restored to sinus rhythm. Now we need to do is to press the analyze button again. We need to repeat this process again and again. I know this is a bit tedious or difficult, but it should be easier for you all to do because it's very and extremely important for saving a patient's life. Now the motion is detected, then you will be stopping the motion. You will stop the CPR. Then it will ask, don't touch patient. I already discussed you now, even during the video, which is now. Then you will charge the EKG rhythm, like on the defibrillator. 60 basic energy they need. For example, that for this tutorial, I will be choosing the highest possibility of EKG defibrillation joules, which is 360 joules. And I press the charge button, then I'll shock the rhythm. This will appear, then I press the shock button. Then this narrow pattern of defibrillation will appear. Then the patient is back to normal sinus rhythm. Then that is all that we can learn about the Vital Signs Simulator software. And thank you for watching this video. And if this video helped you, and I hope that you should be understanding the risks of cardiac arrest, you should understand that, and you should listen to my important speech which you will hear in this video. And thank you for watching, and thank you for having your time, and I hope you understand the risks and understand my speech. Thank you.